Right, so we did a little video, a little lesson about how to rearrange equations with formula triangles. So if we had a is equal to b times c, you can rearrange it like that, or speed equals distance over time. We also did it if there was 4 variables, e is equal to mc delta t. But these only ever work if you have nice simple multiplication or divide. Otherwise, you have to do other methods. So we're going to look at a slightly harder situation now, and that is we're going to look at the formula for kinetic energy. So kinetic energy, the symbol for kinetic energy nowadays is E subscript K. Subscript just means a little letter. And it's equal to half mv squared. So what does this mean? What does this mean? Okay, so half mv squared. What it means is half, well, it can mean that you can rearrange it, and you can explain it in a number of ways, but one way you can explain it is half of the mass multiplied by the square of the velocity. The square of the velocity just means velocity times velocity. So you could rewrite this as this, half times m. Whoops, let's just undo that again. It didn't work properly. Half times m times velocity times velocity. So you could think about it as that, or you could think about it as m divided by 2 times velocity times velocity, or you could think about it as, what else? How else could you think about it? You could think about it as m times velocity, all divided by 2. They're all the same thing. It doesn't make any difference which way round you do it. The difficulty is, how would I rearrange that? Well, what I've got to do is I've got to use different, more general, universal rules for rearranging equations, and that is, whatever I do to the left-hand side, I must do to the right-hand side, or whatever I do to the right-hand side, I must do to the left-hand side. So if I take this starting equation up here, just copy it, and that bit there as well. Copy, let's put it down here. Now I'll change the color. So we've got that starting equation, and what we're going to do is we're going to try to rearrange it in some way. So let's get, the first thing we're going to do is get the half to go to the other side. Well, if I multiply both sides by half, so multiply both sides by 2, then the half would, because a half times 2 is 1, so that would then get rid of the half, basically. I'll show you what I mean. Whoops. So if I did, so if we did 2 times that and times 2 there, then we end up with 2 times the kinetic energy is equal to, well, 2 times a half is 1, so 1 times mv squared. So that's the first stage. Now we're getting close to, we could single out m, or we could single out v. Let's start off by singling out m because it's a little bit easier. So what we do now is we're going to divide. This time what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write it in brackets what I'm doing to both sides. So I'm going to divide by v squared. I'm going to do it to the left, and I'm going to do it to the right. So 2 times the kinetic energy divided by velocity squared is equal to m. So that's what you would do if you were going to rearrange it to m equals. First thing we would do is, well, you can do these either way around really, but I multiplied it by 2 to get rid of the half. So because a half times 2 is just 1, so then you get 2ek is equal to mv squared. And then I divided it by v squared, and I got that. Now, what about if I didn't want m, I wanted v? Well, v is a bit more difficult. So the first thing we're going to do is try to get v squared as opposed to v. So we got kinetic energy is equal to half mv squared. We're going to do the first stage the same as before. We're going to multiply both sides by 2. So 2 times the kinetic energy is equal to mv squared. And the next stage, so I'm going to write in brackets what I did. I times that by 2. The next stage is I'm going to divide by m. So divide by m. both sides are divided by m. 2ek divided by m is equal to m divided by m is cancelled out, so v squared. And now what we're going to do is we're going to square root both sides. So the square root of 2 times the kinetic energy divided by m is equal to the velocity. So that would be how you'd rearrange it for that. Okay.